Digital transformation through the new and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, data analytics, machine learning, blockchain, etc., are playing a transformative role in people's lives today. Governments that actually learn to effectively harness these technologies can have a dramatic impact in improving the delivery of public services and strengthening governance and making better informed decisions. I'd like to quote what Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, once said, that for me, it matters that we drive technology as an equalizing force, as an enabler for everyone around the world. Now, that's insightfully what we all want to achieve through technology implementation and milestones. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Purobi Mitra. I'm the Director for Learning and Content Design at Vadhvani Institute of Technology and Policy at Vadhvani Foundation. WITP for short. WITP and Indian Institute of Management Bangalore together is proud, and we welcome you to the Masterclass series of Being Future Ready. We kickstart this series with the first masterclass on design and systems thinking for digital transformation. And we subsequently will host one masterclass in each month, starting from this October, all the way up to March of 2023. Now, in this masterclass series, we will bring us an esteemed list of guests as speakers for the main event each month. We will bring forth leaders, academicians, policymakers, thinkers, strategists, and experts on emerging technologies, where they will share their experience, expertise, and advice on digital transformation, adoption, on implementing emerging technologies in the government that results in stronger governance and better public service delivery. So let's begin with introductions from our side and kickstart this session. I'd like to request Venkatesh to give us a quick introduction from IIMB's side. Venkatesh, over to you.
Thanks, Pravi. Good morning. I'm Venkatesh Balakrishnan, Manager for the Center for Software and IT Management of IIM Bangalore. On behalf of the center, I welcome the speaker for today, Dr. Sumit Chowdhury, the members from Vadhvani Foundation, the faculty from IIM Bangalore, and all the participants. I would give a 2-minute introduction of the center. Professor Shankardeep Banerjee is the chairperson for CSITM. The center was started way back in 1998. And over time, we have developed a big network of professionals from the academia, industry, and the government. And this center serves as a hub for open exchange of information. And the mandate is to support research and training through seminars, webinars such as this, conferences, and workshops. And what we do would be at the intersection of technology and management, because IIM Bangalore is a management institute. And the focus areas broadly would be artificial intelligence, digital transformation, software product management, which is being taught here, and digital governance and policies. And some of the key activities of the recent past and over the last year to recall, or we had a curriculum and pedagogy practicum that was held in association with the India chapter of Association for Information System. And that was a 2-day on-campus program. And that was to provide hands-on experience of designing courses to all the young faculty. And that was a very successful program. And we have multiple webinar series going on. And some of them to quote, we have one top IS publications from India. And this, we invite speakers, and this is to honor and publicize some of the top research papers. And we also have a book talk webinar series. And this would discuss the complex relationship with contemporary technologies. And we also have some larger events that are recurring. We have Software Product Management Summit that happens every year. As I mentioned, the software product management is being taught here, and Professor Shankardeep Banerjee himself teaches. And the next event of the software product management will be held in March of 2023. And with that said, I welcome you all once again and hand it over to Prabhi for taking the event of today forward.
Thank you, Venkatesh. And thank you for that introduction for IIMB. Followed by that, we would also like to briefly share before I, invite our guest today. And I would like to share a quick introduction to who and what WITP is. Vadhvani Institute of Technology and Policy is a part of Vadhvani Foundation. We help policymakers develop an executive level understanding of the emerging technologies potential like artificial intelligence, blockchain, data analytics, and more through executive courses. We also help governments to learn effectively how to harness these technologies that can have a dramatic impact in improving the delivery of public services and governance. We have just started our work as of 2021 from the month of April. And within that span till now, under the leadership of Shri Prakash Kumar, who's himself a retired IS officer and has also spent his time in the corporate world, right from brands like Deloitte and Microsoft. And he was also in his erstwhile role, this first CEO of GST in India. Under his leadership, we have managed to actually touch almost over 1,800 government officers through training programs and also partner with them to effectively identify certain areas for project implementation through POCs and pilots. But today, in this masterclass, we are proud to also give everybody also an opportunity to inform that as we have these masterclasses in each month, starting from October till March of 2023, we will also get an opportunity to earn a certificate of participation from IIMB and WITP. Just to inform everyone, the eligibility criteria for that is that we will need to attend a minimum of 3 masterclasses and attend full masterclass sessions to be able to earn that certificate. The certificate would obviously be given out after the last masterclass, which is the 6th session that will get over in the month of March. And post that, we will be awarding the certification of participation to everybody. So it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to meet our guest who will now kickstart this series. I'm proud to introduce Dr. Sumit D. Chowdhury, who will be speaking on design and systems thinking for digital transformation. A brief introduction before I hand over the dais to him. So Dr. Sumit Chowdhury is a visiting faculty and Dean's Advisor on Dean's Advisory Board at Carnegie Mellon University at the Heinz College of Information Systems and Public Policy. He's a global thought leader, a CXO member in the field of asset performance management, AI, smart cities, telecom, and information analytics. He's also been the program director for Swachh Bharat Mission and IT expert for several smart city projects. He's also the founder and chairman of Gaia, an innovative SaaS platform for enterprise process automation. Sumit, in his prior roles, has also been a president and CIO for Reliance Jio and IBM. He's also been with Reliance Communication and also was the managing partner at KPMG Bearing Point. He has been a mentor and has provided funding to entrepreneurs in areas like M2M, Internet of Things, smart cities, and has served as an independent director for a listed company. His focus has also been primarily on technology-based transformation of companies. Sumit is a futurist and an entrepreneur at heart and believes in creating digital and phygital solutions involving AI, ML, IoT, and mobile technologies. He's a graduate from IIT Kanpur, followed by his MS and a doctorate from Carnegie Mellon University. He's also a certificate diploma holder from Australian Institute of Company Directors. I'm proud to welcome Dr. Sumit D. Chowdhury for the first masterclass. Over to you, Sumit.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Puravi and Venkatesh, for the introduction to the Being Future Ready series that we are launching today. It's my pleasure to be the first speaker in this series, and to talk about design and systems thinking. Now, we are applying it for digital transformation, but this whole concept of design thinking and system thinking brings together the concept of whole brain approach to any public policy or any implementation of technology in the country or anywhere else in the world. What is digital transformation? Let me get some of the theories out of the way so that we note. So if we take a look at digital transformation, it is about to change the way we do business. It's not about introducing computerization. It is not about digitization, but it is about how we approach change, right? And we are going to talk about digital transformation as a realignment and a new investment in technology and business models to more effectively engage with our digital consumers, citizens, anybody who's interacting with us in any touch point, and improve the customer experience with us, right? At the end of the day, when we invest in technology, when we invest in some change, we need to have some outcome. Either implementing this technology will give us a better understanding of our customer. So we have used digital transformation to understand our customer better, or improve the customer touch points. Earlier, he was coming to a shop. Now he can do it online, or he can go to a kiosk. Or what are we changing? It could be to measure the performance of the business. You can implement technology to say that I am going to measure everything that we do, and only when we measure will we be able to improve. And therefore, the whole cycle of improvement of technology is built into the digital transformation project, which is constantly measuring the performance of the business. Transformation can also be for process digitization. Plain and simple, you're looking at what is happening in the real world. You can say that I'm going to implement technology to digitize everything and transform that thinking while we digitize, not just change paper-based processes to computer-based processes, but to change what we are doing. It can also result in top-line growth or a digitally modified business. Earlier, it was a paper business. Now it's a completely digitally modified business, and it changes how we approach things. I'm from the telecom industry, as Purabi pointed out in my background. We used to provision phones in 30 days, 40 days. And if people are old enough on this panel, you will probably know that you probably got phone connections over years in the past. Now you can walk into a shop and get out with a phone in less than 3 minutes. That is transformation beyond belief. It is automation beyond belief in terms of what used to happen just merely 15, 20 years ago, right? That is digital transformation. You have changed the entire approach to how you solve a customer's problem, right? What it is not also is important to think through. It's the goal of digital transformation is to make businesses and governments relevant in this digital era. Everybody is interacting with the government or with your business digitally now. And in this digital era, there are lots of opportunities, growth opportunities, performance opportunities, new lines of business. There's so many things happening that you can do because you are a digitally transformed business. And many governments have figured out that if they become as productive or as proactive as enterprises, they are able to actually increase their top line. If they are able to monitor the losses, they are able to increase their top line. If they are able to improve the performance of everybody who's working, they are able to improve their top line and their bottom line. So essentially, if you want to scale your business, you need to have transformed your business digitally. What it is not, what are the myths of digital transformation? One, that it is only meant for online businesses. No, it is actually meant for online, offline, all kinds of businesses. It is meant for factories. It is meant for the shopkeeper down on the street from you. It is a digitally transformed business can actually scale anybody. It is only for B2C companies. No, again, digital transformation is applicable for every kind of company that is there today. And it's not just for B2C. And the users are not just millennials. Today, even my father, who was 90 years old, was using a mobile phone to do his transactions, to buy food, to get groceries. They are all not millennials. They are people who have learned how to use technology to change their own life. And they are finding it extremely convenient to interact with the channels that they used to do physically before. Right? Digital transformation is not just for developed markets. In fact, India is a classic example of how we have implemented technology to completely transform our payments business, and very soon our healthcare, our digital commerce, everything is getting transformed today by the platforms that are being put into place. And it is not just about digital and IT part of the business. Digital transformation is about the entire business. The business leader has to drive this. And it is a lot more than just digitization of what was happening before. Digital transformation is essentially not a Six Sigma project to improve something by introducing digital technology. It is about completely transforming and taking something that took 1 month to make it few minutes, right? That's the transformation we are talking about. What it used to take a long time to get paid now happens in a few seconds when you're standing in front of a sabji wala and giving the Paytm transaction there, or a Google Pay to that person. So essentially, we have transformed how we are interacting with each other through digital technologies. So it's about everybody. Now, if you take a look at the major stakeholders, another thing, if you take a look at the government, and because our focus has been primarily in the government space, in the Vadvani Foundation and this Being Future Ready series, I would have a lot of examples from the public sector and government. So lots of stakeholders are there: citizens, investors, utilities, public services, regulators, urban local bodies, public services, and community organizations. They all are stakeholders of a major digital transformation. And when we look at this, when we look at optimal design, it doesn't need to be just looking at how a road is being created. We need to look at the physical, obviously, but then there is the whole technical side to the project. There is the economic impacts of that, the social impact of that, the environmental impacts of that. And most of these are not thought through in many digital transformations. And we see the consequence of that in later stages of the project, when an activist comes and puts forward an opposition to the transformation. And we take a look at Mumbai's sea corridor that is coming up right now. If people had taken care of the social and environmental issues up front, the project would have actually been a year ahead of time. Even now, you have got the social and economic activists trying to change the major structure of the project, because it actually can become better. If you involve them in time, the project can actually have better outcomes for a larger community. So we need to start looking at digital transformation in that way. The ceiling project is a physical road, but the digital transformation over there is essentially thinking about how we are going to bring various stakeholders into the thinking process and take them along in the journey. Right. Now, how did we do things before? We would go as consultant. I was a consultant before, and we used to go to different user groups in the company. We would look at their as-is processes. We would come up with 2B processes, and we'll go across all user groups, and we will have a document called as-is process. We'll have a document called 2B, and we looked at it holistically from each user group's perspective, and then we put it all together, and we used to build monolithic applications. We used to tell them that, look, if you build this application like an SAP or an Oracle or any of these monolithic applications, ERP applications, you look at this and you say, earlier you used to do it this way. Now the digitally transformed processes would be this one aggregation of all of these together in user groups. But we have soon realized that this also is not the right way of doing it, because at the end of the day, you have got things that go out to other companies. You outsource a process. You might just have one person looking after a whole external company who's going to do these outsourced processes. And if you take these processes out, you need to decouple how you are approaching this transformation. You need to decouple your users, your processes, your systems in a way that these things become a much larger platform, and you're still able to achieve your outcome that you're desiring. And now I'm going to give another example of the HR systems. There was a time when a company would go and have an HR system for all their employees, and very soon you realize that, look, you're not being able to hire all the right people. So you hired a recruiter who's going to look at, a recruiter would come and have a set of clients called companies. They would go and hire a few people that they would go and reach out to for every job that is there, and they would link them together. Then comes Monster and Naukri, which says, you know what, I'm a platform and I can take a lot of requirements from different companies and match them with employees who are seeking jobs. But over time, we have seen that that also is probably not working out in the way, because there's a lot of processes which are niche, which require going into niche recruitment processes like health checkups, background checkups, online transactions, because a lot of hiring now is not happening face to face. There's a lot of platforms that have come up today which has decentralized this whole platform, the way in which companies would approach hiring people. I'm just giving an example of how this transformation has happened. Now, I'm going to give you an example of from the telecom industry again, which is you look at any person who's coming to work. I mean, this again need not be from the telecom industry, but this is where I had developed it, where the person comes in the morning, checks his mail, instructions. You look at all the things that this one person is doing. You checks trends, reports. He's a executive of a large company. He by 11 a.m. he gets a lot of alerts of things that didn't happen the day before, or things that should have happened in the morning has not happened, and he responds and he works through his day. He goes for his lunch, comes back, makes some calls, resolves some problems, make sure that everybody has got their work allocated, and then he checks and signs off and goes back home. Now, this you that is in the center could be anybody. Could be the security guard of the company, could be the shop owner, could be the shop employee, channel partners, logistics companies, warehouse employees. They are all part of a process of running one company, but they all have different needs. They all are looking at the problem of serving the customer very differently, but they are all at the end of the day serving that end goal of making sure that a customer gets the service that they bought and paid for. Now, how would you design? Would you design one monolithic system to do it, or you will decentralize it? The security guard comes from one company. The channel partners are having their own processes out in the field. Logistics companies are anyway decentralized today. How do you take care of your business processes when you've got this myriad of different things that are happening? And I'm just talking about one company. Now think about this as a full industry and look at the extent of challenges that companies would face. So people have decentralized it. They are saying that we will look at different interfaces for these different people who are in interfacing with my system. Now, the interface could be a security guard. The security guard would be interacting with some processes that they do themselves. Some applications would be inside the company. Some applications could be outside, could be on the cloud, could be a mail application, could be an IoT device which is sending alerts to the security guard's interface. We need to take a look at the security guard's day in the life and figure out how we are going to interface with business processes, application processes, and sort of allow a completely decentralized way of looking at this transformation. Then over time, you will realize that you don't need one security guard agencies. You can actually have 30 of them, but they all follow the same processes that you are governing for your company because you manage the end-to-end. This transformation has happened very seamlessly. I mean, it looks seamlessly now, but over the last 4 or 5 years of the digital payments business, where everything has been decentralized, the UI that you're seeing from different people, the interfaces that have been exposed, the backend applications remain strong, and we have not seen major turmoil in the industry while it went through this thing. When I say major turmoil, I mean things didn't really break down. We slowly grew. It was taken us about 4 or 5 years to get to this point, but it is possible, and we are working as a country. I think I know of at least 4 or 5 different large decentralized platforms which are being put in place today for making these things happen. But where does design thinking and systems thinking come in this picture? One is essentially this transformation requires a mindset shift. It requires behavioral change from people, and it needs leadership support. Very frankly, this leadership support came from the entire industry in the payments industry, and we are now working towards this same leadership support is being sought after in the healthcare and logistics and transportation projects that are going on in the country for digital transformation. Now, this mindset change is required to put the customer in the center of your thinking. And that is what design thinking is all about. Design thinking, design as such, is a way you look at it's way something looks and works. But design thinking is a framework for creating better and holistic designs that puts the user in the center. So you essentially look at the security guard and you think about everything that the security guard is going to do and make sure that he has the best interface. And he's not going to move away from this interface because he gets everything that he wants in one way. You have to think about that person. You've got to think about each user and holistically look at how you're going to put the whole thing together. Right? It's not about solving design problems. It is about solving business problems, but putting both the left and right brains together. Earlier, software engineers as engineers are always very logical, left brain thinking folks. And I come from that genre of people. But I also look at things in design as an artist, as something which is saying, can I change this whole thing? What will it look like if I change the whole process? How can I break it and create something new from this? So this creative destruction that needs to happen in the business process to solve business problems is what design thinking is all about. And when we take a look at design thinking, we need to look at the different kinds of users, understanding user groups. There are mainstream users. Mainstream users are going to be the largest bucket of users of any product and service, right? They are going to be the users who are going to do the same transactions over and over again, and they constitute, and they should have the fastest way to interact with your application. They should be able to come in and out of that and get the thing done, like what we have seen in Google Pay, Paytm, and other payment transactions. There's a mainstream set of users. Then there are lead users, people who are going to work with the early adopters, people who are going to help shape the design, the early channel partners, the early user group who will come and say, you know what, I still like your business, like what you're doing, but make these changes to make it better. So they are early adopters who are not going to get disheartened by initial trouble. They will work with you to fix the problems, identify the user needs, solution improvements. And then there are the extreme users. You cannot build a product all together for all these users all at the same time. Extreme users are people who are going to completely break the system every day in and out. Their requirements are extreme. They want most of the things, and most companies almost come up with almost a different product for extreme users, because that requirement is very different. Their needs are very different, right? They will be special. They are elderly people. They are interacting with the system with a different set of UI and requirements in mind, right? So we need to understand what these user groups are and how we do that. And when you talk to the users, you are looking at mapping and prioritizing their needs, because you'll not be able to solve all of these at the same time, because you're looking at each user together. So primarily, there are primary and secondary needs. User will want certain things. Absolutely clearly, you're saying this is absolutely crucial, that needs to get done, versus something that would be secondary needs, where if you get this done, then that can also get done. So you need to be very clear on how you segregate the primary and secondary needs. And then there are latent needs where they will never tell you what they really want, but you need to understand it by what they are telling you as their major problems are and what they are facing when the primary and secondary needs are being stated. If we had replicated all the problems of Microsoft, Apple wouldn't have come across. They completely looked at a latent need that was there, and they put UIs in place that were not there before. So you need to, if you want to wow the system to completely take transformation to a different level, you need to understand the latent needs. And once they get fulfilled, those are leverage points. And we'll come to the concept of leverage points later when we talk about systems thinking. And when we put all of this together, we see these competing needs. There are things that are going to compete with each other, and you need to choose what need goes in first. And there are things that are complementary, that I do this, I get that also. So let's do it together and let's get this thing. So you need product management. Whenever you do a transformation project, you need to approach it that I'm building this product which is going to be used by lots of people. So putting that product management life cycle is very important. The other thing about design thinking is to empathize with your end user. You need to define it with them. You need to ideate with them. You need to prototype it, and you need to test it with them even before the system is built, right? So this process of interacting with the people before you even start building it, with citizens, with your ecosystem partners, with your logistics providers, you essentially put the idea out, co-create it with them. And we'll talk about co-creation a little later. And when the core challenge of design thinking is not to build the best product that could be built. It needs to be the subset, the center of this. What is desirable from the people? What meets their real need? What is usable? What is humanistic? It serves most of the user group. That's what is people desirable. What is technically feasible? Not everything is technically feasible. It might be desired by people, but it may not be technically feasible. It is technically feasible in the whole ecosystem. It may not be there in one company. In the past, we used to focus on having monolithic applications where everything is there in one application. And if it was not there, then we spent a lot of time building it into the monolithic application. SAP projects would drag on for years together because we were trying to build in everything into the ecosystem. But today, in a decentralized ecosystem, you basically say, if you don't have it, I'm going to find this other provider who can do exactly that one little thing, and they do it really well. Let's integrate with them and let's create this process together. It solves real problems, and it solves real constraints, because there cannot be a project without constraints, right? And this technical feasibility will also offer competitive advantage. The last one is, not everything is cheap. Whatever we are talking about requires money, and we always have limited amounts of money. So it needs to be financially viable, and it needs to impact the livelihood of citizens, right? It should be possible within the time and financial constraints that are there in the ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, it need not be the government only. It could be the government, it could be the private sector, it could be citizens themselves. They all should come together, and in totality, the project, the transformation needs to be financially viable, right? Design thinking is to essentially increase that center point, to saying how many things are desirable to people, are financially viable and technically feasible. So work with this constantly to solve the problems that are out there. Now, we talked about this behavior and the linkages that are there. What are the major criteria for the majority of users? What is their hierarchy of needs? We talked about what are the constraints, and what are the interconnections? And we'll talk about interconnections in systems theory as well, when we are looking at the contradictions. What is the cause? What is an effect? And what is going to drive the usage and adoption? You can implement, but adoption is a totally different ballgame. It actually needs to impact the lives of users for it to get adopted by everybody. We can solve the problems of a particular user. You can solve it for a user group. You can solve it for an organizational unit. How does these organizational units work with each other? How do they work outside the organization, inside? Which other outside agencies do they work with? And we need to start mapping the life cycle of the consumer and the day in the life of which we talked about. What does he come and do every day? Can I make his life easy? Can I solve a problem such that he doesn't have to go out of the system to solve it somewhere else? Can we keep him in the system so that we get the maximum productivity of our employees, of our citizens, of our people? Because we are solving all the problems that they have got. They may not want it all solved in one place, but we are giving them the opportunity to not go out, giving them options so that they can solve it within the set of interfaces that are there. Right. And so we need to look at the touch points through the day and through the life. When I say look at the requirements of somebody, and we did all of this when we were, when I was associated with many of the product launches that have been there in the companies that I have worked with. Like, how do you map the journey through the life cycle? What does the person need when they are 16 or 25 or 30 or 50 or 90? They are all different requirements, but there should be ways in which you can map these requirements and give it to them. Again, we go back to the day in the life of everyone. You need to understand this day in the life of your stakeholders to be
Dr.
able
Chowdhury,
to.
just a quick time check. We are at 10:35.
Yeah.
So just wanted to add
Yeah.
that. Thanks.
That's a 50% mark, and we should be good in terms of our requirement. Thank you. Yeah. So again, when we look at this transition between what is happening inside and what is happening outside, so the use is outside in and inside out approaches. So when we talked about all the users who are inside the system, but what is happening outside? What is the competitive landscape? What are the new category competition that is there? What are the different platform possibilities? So when you do digital transformation, it is not about looking at what you are going to do within your ecosystem only. You need to take a look at this larger impact that you have on the outside world and the outside world has on you, in terms of the platform possibilities, the aggregation, the collaboration, new experiences that people are having today. What are the new delivery mechanisms for services that are there? What are the alternate products and services? Why should they come to you? Why can't they get it somewhere else? Can we give it to somebody else to fulfill a piece of work that we don't want to do ourselves as part of the larger ecosystem? Gone are the days when one company provides everything to you. It's essentially a completely decentralized ecosystem, and we need to sort of build our transformation programs, appreciating that this is what is there today. If we build it for monolithic and then we realize that the world has moved to a decentralized niche, super special application space, we are already starting with a dead project, right? Consumers' needs, the societal needs are changing, and we need to ensure that we have thought through what this change is. We have asked a relevant group of people what these changes are, and we have sought external advice on how this ecosystem and landscape is going to shift beneath our feet. So now brings us to the third point, which is systems thinking. And where does do these things meet? So we looked at the part, but there's a lot of dichotomy when we look at a part versus whole. Should we create independent or should we create integrated applications? Should we look at the individuality of something, or we look at versus the unity of bringing everything together? Should we look at working with our competition? Should we look at cooperation and work and cooperate with the same people? Could we work in an industry where the competition all comes together to create a platform which benefits everybody? It's a very different way of looking at it. And then finally, the cause versus effect. Sometimes we mistake what is the cause and what is the effect. So we need to start looking at problems in a very holistic way, and that is where systems thinking comes in. It is looking at complex situations, and governments are complex. Industries are complex. Large companies are complex systems. System is something which takes in an input and gives out an output, right? That's what the definition of a system is. And a complex system is a series of such systems which create an outcome, right? Innovations have a multiplying effect, right? And the effects can span multiple years, and causes can also span multiple years. So when we look at linear thinking, the example on your screen is very relevant. We are saying that if A and B happens, then C happens. If C happens, then D happens. So essentially, it's a way of looking at life. But mostly means I'm talking about majority of our life is governed by complex processes, which requires systems thinking, which saying A causes B, B causes C, also D causes E, and it impacts. And we need to start looking at our projects and our digital transformation in a much more holistic manner, and looking at the impacts of the different factors that impact each other. And that is when we will find adoption, the impact of our digital transformation project the most. Because if we don't take it, we announce, and we have seen major programs in the last 7-10 years that have actually taken a good system thinking approach. But we have also seen enough examples of knee-jerk reactions of announcements which require rethinking how these a policy A can impact a policy B, and can come back and impact policy A again through a feedback mechanism, which is later. So after we implement, we realize the impact, and then we come back and we go and keep changing this thing. So we could have thought this through a little early before we start implementing many policy changes. Let's take an example of the air pollution in Delhi. Too many vehicles, people were burning garbage, stubble burning was going on, polluting power plants, lack of green cover. These were all reasons given for Delhi air pollution. And every year, the same things come up for discussion. And the first thing that was there that, okay, let's too many vehicles, so let's reduce the number of vehicles by creating odd even schemes. And we said lack of green cover, let's start swabbing and spraying the streets with water. We removed the polluting power plants. We made a lot of attempts to stop burning the garbage and changing dump sites and having impact on the stubble burning in neighboring states. But when we look at this concept of pollution in Delhi, let's take that as an example. You will see that if we are looking at one key indicator, there are a lot of effects and there's a lot of causes which impact this one key indicator. Pollution can easily be measured. This one key indicator is a very measurable indicator in every part of the city, and we have been measuring it over here quite extensively, right? And there are multiple causes, and causes have effects, and then effects have further causes which can come back and impact the indicators. And these are all happening over a period of time. So systems diagramming in this theory is about writing down these cause and effects and knowing the delays that are associated with the cause and effect relationship. So if we take a look at knee-jerk reactions, too many vehicles leads to pollution, reduce vehicles, and therefore it will lead to reduction in pollution. It doesn't happen that way. There's so many different aspects we talked about in the previous picture. It's not that simple, right? There are too many other things that also need to be done to make it happen. I mean, reduction in pollution can happen when you use shared cars. We need to reduce congestion. We need to, the reduction in pollution will lead to an effect of reduction in diseases, which will lead to better quality of life. And if better quality of life will actually allow people to spend more on pollution prevention schemes, reduction in vehicles will have an impact of less sales of vehicles and less sales of carbon over there. You need to improve your better public transport as one of the will reduce to reduction in pollution. That will lead to increased ridership. Increasing of ridership will improve the public transport profitability. So this whole sub benefit scheme over there, that reduction in pollution has a completely different side effect of better public transport and increased profitability of public transport was one. I mean, people were reaching home on time. There was a completely side effect of the odd even scheme that many of you would have seen. So essentially, when you take a look at just pollution and you start drawing the cause and effect, you will see the impact and the different kinds of things that you need to put in place for a transformation to be done better and implemented. So the pyramid model for systems thinking is essentially that you observe events and you react. The first thing is what you see above is what you react. Somebody died in a car accident not wearing the rear seat belt. Our knee-jerk reaction was to mandate and fine people sitting in cars in the city where your average speed is never going to go beyond 20 to 30 to wear seatbelts. Though I still recommend wearing seatbelts to others. That is not the idea of the thinking over here. But we had a knee-jerk reaction. We need to take a look at, we need to anticipate that this reaction, what is beneath the surface? How does the system really work? What are the patterns of behavior? What are the trends, or what has been happening over a period of time? Earlier, there was no seatbelt even in the front seats, right? Over time, we have seen the pattern of behavior of people changing their behavior, wearing seatbelts because they have seen that seatbelts have saved lives, right? And they have seen that putting airbags have saved lives, and a lot of things have happened around it. Just reacting, saying somebody died, one person died, one piece of data causing a major, and this is not just in one case. We have seen this in policy decision after policy decision, where we have taken an event and we have reacted with a policy outcome or a order which changes things. We need to, if we really want to see the change, we need to look at the underlying systemic structure that has led for this to happen. What is the design? What are the different forces at play which are contributing to these patterns? Right now, there are certain people who are tasked to go down this level, right? And then finally, you need to transform this. To transform it, you need to have a mental model about how this thinking creates systems and supports this purpose. So when we look at digital transformation, like any other transformation, you need to take a look at the whole system, look at these patterns of behavior, underlying systemic structure, mental models, and only then will you have a successful digital transformation. Reacting to events is easy to do. Transforming something is harder to do. But should you not do the things that are easy to do? Yes, but do not react. React after you have gone through a little bit of thinking around the design, around the transformation that will happen eventually over a period of time. Then react to the event. React with a lot of thought. Today, our reactions are quick, and these quick reactions are not taking into account the larger systems thinking that needs to go into the process of change. So failed transactions, and we keep hearing about these failed projects because you realize that you have not gone through the hard transformation that needs to happen that along with it. You have taken a very quick reaction. And I do not want to name specific projects, specific policy decisions here, but there are some which all of us know have not really resulted any outcome because the high chances of success or low chances of success. When we react to an event, the chances are very low. If we react to, if we transform, then there are very high chances of success for a transformation project. Right? And when we find these little points of leverage, we talked about this diagramming, right? These triangular points are points of leverage, where a small amount of introduction of technology, a small amount of change in that behavior will result in major changes in the outcome. So obviously we know that if we completely transform everything, everything will change. That is always never an option. You have to introduce small amounts of change. And if you think this through, the small amount of change would be just the right amount of change to have a major impact in your outcome, right? And when you find these leverage points, it always feels good. You need to start replicating these leverage points across your projects, across your governance jurisdictions, right? That is what this thing looks like, right? You need to get all your stakeholders, get them immersed into their lives, understand the stakeholders' requirements, make several designs and get validation of these mental models, and work with prototyping and implementation. Right? You need to create this user experience, the change management, the new business models, think through all of it to a level of details and communicate it with your stakeholders. A bigger problem that we have seen in many transformation projects is the lack of communication along with it. And I'm going to, because looking at the clock, I will talk very quickly about this whole concept of co-creation and co-design. If you take your stakeholders along with you, working with professionals to create what is going to be the eventual outcome of the industry, you will see that you are getting better design, co-designs, co-produced designs. And wherever we have seen major transformation happen, it has always been self-organized. People are doing it by themselves because that is the right thing to do. And it is also beneficial for a large group of people where no professionals are involved. You can get the community involved with professionals who have designed the system. So basically looking at this matrix, who is designing the service and who is executing the service. You can, at one end is self-organized community provision, and the other hand, you will have traditional professional service provision. So we typically see the left top corner where some professionals come and say, this is how it needs to be done, and a professional set of people do it. But when we see transformation, mass adoption of things, you will see professionals designing it, but a lot of users adopting it. They are the ones who are delivering part of the services and they become part of the ecosystem. So co-design is collaborative. Get that code, get them into the development process, get your stakeholders in and shift the power from applications to the process, to the people. And you will see your transformation projects be outcome-based and succeed over time. The point in this slide is let some projects fail without penalty. This is something that we don't do here in the government in India. We don't allow for failure in the beginning itself. We want all projects to succeed. We ensure that there are so many clauses written in contracts that failure is almost to be looked down upon. And that is a big problem of major transformation projects, that we always blame somebody at the end of the day. Some ideas should fail, and we should allow that to happen in the change management and the rules of our procurement process. You need to think big, think integrated, think long term, things that will last for a long period of time, not something that has to be done in the next 2 to 3 years because an election is coming through. Think about your short-term projects and do meticulous planning for those, but have a general idea of the long term. And I am not saying anything which is rocket science over here, but it needs to be done by people who are actually going into the details of these earlier ones. Think prototypes, think over multiple groups, and to get the larger, smarter governance in place, we need to look at it in a very different way than we do in most cases. There are many reasons why transformation projects fail, because there's no strategy. We mostly don't know what is digital transformation. Leadership commitment starts and wanes in government. As you know, there are good people who come and then people go away. Even in companies, we have seen leadership commitment coming in and out, which causes digital transformation projects to fail. Stakeholder analysis is where we looked at the larger systems thinking. There are many stakeholders that we have not taken into account when we start doing things, and that is a major cause of failure. Risk management, internal communications, having the right team, investing in the culture of change, and collaboration with other functions is again something that is a big part of design and systems thinking in there. And finally, ownership of digital transformation projects. If it is owned by a lot of people in terms of saying that it is my change and I'm going to make it happen, you're going to see a lot of projects succeed. Unless it's just one person who's driving it, it becomes much difficult project. Right. So bringing it to the last two slides, we are at that point where we integrate all these concepts, that when we are looking at design thinking and frameworks for digital transformation, we need to look at user-centric design. We need to start doing the performance and measurements and metrics, because systems thinking is all about drawing these diagrams and looking at the impact that each of these have with others. The design and systems thinking approach also looks at what should be localized, what should be generalized, what kind of interfaces that we need to have with people, what does one population need versus the other population needs, what are common features and functionality that needs to be there. And then finally, this concept of futures thinking, which is what is built to last. What can we build which will constantly be changing along with? Can you incorporate change and constant change as part of the process of digital transformation? It is design thinking and systems thinking to a digital transformation project is embedding users, performance management, constant change, and mass customization into the framework of a transformation projects. And that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. Product is no longer the basis of the value, but the user experiences. So people who invest in thinking through this larger user experience are the ones that are going to succeed. So I'm going to stop here and take questions from people. I see a few which I would like to be read out, and we can interact with the participants.
Yes, Dr. Sumit, there are quite a few questions. So going by the order in which the questions came, I would make some of them eligible to speak, and they can ask the question directly to you. Is that fine with you?
Sounds good.
Yeah. We have a question from Ajay.
Hi, Ajay. What's your question? Let me pull up the chat command as well.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Sumit. My question, I just wanted your, experiential views on, while there is a process and method to do design thinking, and there are, of course, a bunch of talented people who kind of come together to do it. From a decision makers and leadership perspective, how do you see the role that they need to play or they are playing? How do they engage with various design projects, and what kind of engagement do we need, and what do we experience at different stages of the design project?
That's a very good question, Ajay. I think you've hit a couple of nails. One is where does leadership sponsorship come in a design thinking project? So essentially, if you take a look at, first is they need to be amicable to the fact that I am no longer thinking that my universe, my company is in the center of the universe. In the prior thinking approach, every leader thought that I am the center of the universe, everybody interacts with me. First is, if you flip this thing, is that I have a customer and I need to solve the customer's problem, and I am fitting in somewhere in the ecosystem of needs of my customer. So the leadership's first mindset change is to understand that they are part of an ecosystem, which is a major ego scale down over there. Once that has happened, they need to sponsor projects and involve themselves as one of the stakeholders, not the decision-making stakeholder. They are one of the stakeholders of the larger process. So they need to give their inputs. Absolutely, what a leader needs to see, what the investor needs to see, what the ecosystem of leaders that report to the top line needs to see are all requirements. They are dashboards. They are decision-making pieces of data. Can we take them as one user group and see if the project delivers to that user group? They are also a user group in the system. So as long as, if this come down from that hobby horse of saying that I am the leader and my decisions are the final, to say that there is an ecosystem of needs in my company. If the needs of the ecosystems are met, then the company as such will benefit more. A lot of times it is flipped, unfortunately. The leader is driving it. Their requirements are higher priority than the people who are actually using the system day in and day out. The majority users we are not looking at. We are looking at these niche, extreme user requirements, and we build for extreme user requirements. Again, we talked about extreme users and mainstream users. We need to change their mindset to look at they are an extreme user, the leadership. We need to treat them as such. Keep them outside the bucket of the mainstream users whose processes you need to think. And the leader should be amicable to this concept that they are also a user and they are an extreme user. We will consider them, but there is a set of 90% of others who are also contributing. Is that right? Does that cover your question, Ajay?
Yes, it does.
You can follow up
Yeah,
again. We can chat separately on this. Yeah.
yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for your response, Sumit. I really like the aspect of people, visualizing themselves as a larger ecosystem or a part of a larger ecosystem. I'm sure there are many more mindsets to deal with. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
You would have Samir Mathur ask you the question that he had in mind. Over to you, Samir.
Hi, Samir.
So, Dr. Sumit, you could perhaps stop sharing the screen so we'll be able to interact with people if they can switch on their camera as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Samir, we would love to see you and hear your question. You're on mute, Samir. I think if you would.
Yes. Thank you for that. My question is that in an existing system, or when the car is running, where do you start for transformation? So what is probably the best place to start for a transformation in an existing system? Could be a running government, running policy, running car, anything.
Measurement and dashboards. Measurement. I would start, this is my personal opinion, I would start by saying the car is already running. Let's start measuring as many things as we can. I mean, in the dashboard of a car, I don't know whether you know, is only showing about 5% of the data that is available in the car today. Are we watching the right 5%? What are the other things that are hidden that we are collecting data? Let's bring those out. Let us look at where the problems are. Let us look at trends of data. So if there is a running car, I would start looking at data analysis of what my car is doing. If I know a problem, then I'll start by asking questions about a problem. If you don't know where we are, the car is going and somebody said, please do a transformation project. That means you don't know what you're doing. You need to have a problem. Right? So first you need to identify what problem am I solving? My car is not going fast enough. problem? Where do we need to start by? Somebody says fast enough. What is enough? First, let's define what is enough. And then we say, let's measure the speed over different periods of time. Is it fast enough in this category? Is it not? So you start doing a lot of analysis of the data to say, I now know that what are the global benchmarks of fast in this road? Is it 20 kilometers per hour? Is it 100 kilometers per hour? F1 car is going very slow at 100 kilometers per hour, but a two-wheeler is going very fast at 100 kilometers per hour. Who are you? Are you the two-wheeler? Are you F1? So you need to know who you are, what problems you're going to solve. Look at the data analysis, and then you say, okay, now I know that I need to stop the car to do it, or I'll be able to solve the speed problem while the car is running. Two problems. Do I have the option to stop the car, or I don't have the option to start the car? I'll give you an example of a problem that we faced in one of the companies that I was the CIO for. We had a CRM system. We used to get about 500,000 calls a day. We had to upgrade this CRM system. The upgrade the software vendor came and said that they would require a 3-day downtime of the CRM system to upgrade. A 3-day downtime for us would mean that we would have missed about 2 million calls. We would have not been able to answer 2 million calls. We would not have been able to take new orders. Everything would have come to a grinding halt in a company which takes 500,000 to 1 million calls a day. So essentially that was not an option. So you've got a running company, you need to upgrade. The upgrade might take 3 days. So how do you do it? You need to do the parallel bus thing in speed. You need to bring another vehicle next to it, make sure that your consumers are being addressed by some other thing which is good enough to run at that velocity but may not have all the feature functionality. Then you move them over. So there's a lot of thinking that went in, and the vendor had said that I can reduce the 3-day downtime to a 2-day downtime, but you have to give me $10 million. That also was not an acceptable answer, right? You cannot take a 2-day downtime. We had to do it at 0 downtime. So how do you take a digital transformation? Is about this thinking of saying that somebody who's telling me it is going to take 3-day downtime to do it in 0 downtime. That is digital transformation. That I have thought through everything that needs to be done to completely change the question only. That we were asking this vendor questions about how to decrease the downtime, database upgrade, is that, so software, whatever it was. But it was not about that. Question was wrong. Trying to optimize that process was not the right way to address the problem. But anyway, that's just giving you an example of how to do it while the bus is running.
And can I ask another question? Just to follow up. This all makes sense. Oftentimes, and this is my experience of working, by the time we are able to collect the data, analyze it, figure out what's wrong, the bus has moved, which means that there's something new which is happening. And then, trying to solve the problem then is like, and that's what I think Ajay wrote in his comments as well, that, it's kind of like looking in the rear view mirror. Well, yes, if you spend a lot of time in just collecting the data and analyzing it, and, again, my experience has been that a lot of companies just lose steam, in that process of data collection, or they just realize that, oh, it's too expensive, or it's going to take too much time. So, just dump it, which is not a very pleasant experience, but yeah, I've experienced that.
I'll give you an answer which comes from a Nobel laureate called Herb Simon. He got his PhD at Carnegie Mellon. He was a professor there. I happened to have interacted with him in my days there. He got his PhD in a concept called satisficing, which says that do you have just about enough to get the answer that you require versus going that human beings satisfies. It's a natural human behavior not to get we can take decisions with partial information. We can take decisions with imperfect inputs because we are able to draw these larger pictures with that sense. So good leaders are leaders who are able to see a pattern emerging from sparse information. When you have leaders who will insist on 100% data collection and doing it, you can be sure that they don't know what they're doing. And sorry about this analogy. But if somebody is asking for, I mean, I'm doing a project here in which we are collecting data on traffic in Delhi. We are being asked questions which are absolutely ridiculous in terms of accuracy, which will never be used for anything. If people don't know what they are doing, you will have people asking questions which are of absolutely no relevance. So as business leaders, as transformation leaders, as systems thinkers, we need to point out what is satisfying, what is good enough for us to take decisions to move ahead. Because yes, you're right that if you collect too much information, you are collecting information. It is not going to add to any more knowledge that you have got, or it doesn't make you any wiser. And you should allow some decisions to fail, as I was talking about. You have to say that, look, I have got a good enough picture for me to take 3 steps now. I will figure out which of 3 steps are the right 3 steps, because I will then only collect information about these 3 steps, and I will narrow down my decision making, data collection, my focus to a point where now I have a decisive decision to make, which will have millions of dollars of impact, cost wise or revenue wise. Right. So this thinking, constantly thinking, being sharp about this idea is what makes a good leader versus not so good leader, or yet to become a good leader. Not so good leader is not a good right way to put it. Yet to become a good leader.
I understand that. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
We will now open Nina Balachandran to ask the question. Nina, I'm making you as a panelist. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi, Nina. It'll be great to interact with you if you can switch on your video, and then we'll I can read your question. So what's the timeline to hypothesize, design, prototype, and test? Is that was your question, right?
That's right. Hi, Dr. Sumit. So my question really is in terms of so I am working with Shell, Dr. Sumit, and we are on a digital transformation journey where we are trying to move away from monolith applications, pull all our data onto the cloud. And so one of the so we are, firstly, I think after listening to your talk, not applying systems thinking and design thinking in place. And what the challenge that we see is in terms of the spice that we do, or even coming up with an MVP takes us anything from say from a year to more than even to come up with the first MVP. So what I wanted to think is when you apply design system thinking, and also with your experience, what is the ideal timeline that we need to look at, that this idea is not going to work, or we probably need to stop our investment on this and look at an alternate plan B?
There is no universal answer, Nina, and I'll tell you, if you're looking at oil and gas as you are in Shell, where investments investment themselves is taking many years to invest, and your business cycle is in tens of years, in decades.
Yeah.
Versus an e-commerce company, their business cycle is in hours. If they don't sell today, then they're gone. Tomorrow is a different day, right?
Yeah.
So my answer would be tailored to the business cycle that you are in. Understanding business cycles are very important, because if you change something in a semiconductor plant, in a refinery, I mean, I was deeply involved in Reliance and worked with their refinery over there as well for some time. You can't just change something. Like it is a product. What do you define as a product? What is the design? You need to break the problem down to things that can be solved in shorter periods of time, things that can be demonstrated in shorter periods of time. And given where the industry is going today, decentralized, decoupled applications, lots of other people who are specializing in niche, don't try to do everything in-house. Bring in a set of people who are going to bring in very different perspectives to you, and find you 3 other alternatives that are already there in the industry, which will fast track your MVP process. The problem that I see in large organizations which are multinational, where people are spread all over the thing, is trying to build consensus within everybody inside. You forget that there is an outside.
Yeah.
You forget about how the universe is moving faster than what you can do inside.
Yeah.
And that could be an answer to your specific problem in the company, where your cycles are longer, but you have people who are specialists. Bring them in on board. Give them 3-month timelines. If people lose interest in 3-month timelines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but there is a T20 and then there is a test cricket. You decide the match. Not all matches are same. Not all people play every match correctly. There are people who do long-term thinking, who are good strategists over a long period of time, and there are people who can very quickly crystallize an idea down to, these are the 3 things. If you tell me, then I will tell you these 2 things. Within those 2 things, here are the 5 things you can measure. Based on what you get, we can take an answer. Very quick. If you have done it before, it's very quick. If you haven't, you are learning everything from scratch. Those days are gone where we learn everything from scratch.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sumit.
Thank you.
We would now request Vijay Karna to ask his question. Hi, Vijay. We have made you as a panelist.
Vijay, I can see your question. I'm going to start reading out while you switch on your camera. Can you please share any assessments for digital transformation maturity? Now, again, thanks to work done in the CMMI, again, coming out of the same CMU, Kitty is the maturity model, the capability maturity model. Now, digital transformation maturity models also follow the same thing in terms of saying that, are you just starting off your digital journey? Are you measuring everything in your digital journey? Are you transforming again from 1 to 5? A whole lot of maturity models have there is a curve that you will go through, and not, as I said, a project could be spread across your organization, and some of them are in one stage of maturity and others are not, and it is okay. It is okay for not all of them to move at the same pace, and allowing things that need to happen faster, move faster. Now, a good leader would constantly prioritize his or her time onto these projects. Now, if I take a look at how I have seen leaders work, they measure the amount of time they are spending in meetings with various initiatives. If they measure their time, you know that their focus is on a particular area, not on a particular area, and you basically allow different projects and different transformation projects with different maturity curves to progress. A good leader also knows where to pull in resources from the rest of the organization, understands the capability of the teams that are working in the organization to pull them through this maturity model that is there. And you will spend a lot of time trying to define this maturity model and trying to pin your projects down to these. I would actually spend less time on that versus saying, am I doing the project? Am I pushing the project along? Are deliverables happening? Are we seeing change? When will we see change? Keep everybody in that innovation mindset. Keep everybody, bring all your stakeholders together constantly. Better communication. There's a set of parameters that you can put together to constantly measure this transformation maturity. Vijay, I hope I have answered your question. If not, you can paraphrase, rechange, ask me again.
Thanks. Are you able to hear me, Vijay, here?
Yes, Vijay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, thank you. So that was a good explanation, Dr. Sumit. But where I'm coming from is just linking to the previous conversation, like the car example you gave. If I take car as a service, I have a industry where I'm manufacturing electric vehicle, but I'll have to look at transformation from the usage of the car, the infrastructure, the security, and my capabilities. Not just car as a equipment or a vehicle, but how am I going to change the experience using the digital transformation is what I'm trying to look at. Because you say that 5% of the operational capabilities are visible on the dashboard, but I feel that the complete car as a service is much more than just using the car. Like if the road is not proper, if the infrastructure is not proper, if the government regulations are not proper, it's not conducive for that car to be used. So how am I going to influence all these things from a 720-degree stakeholder perspective and enhance the complete experience is where I'm coming from.
So so I'm going to ask a clarifying question. Who are you? Are you the manufacturer of the car? Where do you sit in this ecosystem? And you could be sitting anywhere. I'm not making an assumption about it. I'm just asking that your question has a predicament, which is more of a policy predicament, looking at the entire ecosystem of the mobility industry, not just car. You're saying that I need to move people. Car exists because a person has to go from place A to place B. He doesn't need a car. He could be using a bike. He could be using public transport. He could be walking. He could be anything. So where are you sitting in the ecosystem of the mobility needs today? If you can answer that, then I'll go into a little more detail.
Yeah, so from a mobility stakeholder perspective, right, as you rightly mentioned, I don't need a car. So how do I ensure that this complete car industry can help a user or a customer, a person with or without car to going from one place to other place, either virtually or physically? So that is the experience that I want to bring the digital transformation from. So we'll have to assess what is the need of the person, how frequently is he using, what is his, what do you call that, how much is he willing to spend, and what are the outcomes of that mobility, all those things. That is what I want the industry to look at, and just of that is where actually the complete transformation, the transformation will come in, where actually I'm able to take the customer experience to the next level, is what I'm trying to understand. Maybe my thought process is not exactly aligned to only the car industry, but mobility, as rightly mentioned. Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from.
I figured, because your question was broad enough to look at mobility as a service, not just car. Yeah. And the subset of people in this whole universe that have a car or will ever need a car is a very small subset of the total universe of people in this planet. Because one, as you said, affordability, there's a lot of people who don't need to go from too far to too far. And there is public transport available. So when you bring it down to the people who are definitely going to need a car, then you go into the deeper analysis of what the car should be, what the service should be. Before that, you start with the mobility requirements. You ask the question of what kind of public transport should be there, what could be last mile connectivity using autos, using two-wheelers, using electric two-wheelers, using small cycles, electric cycles. All kinds of options are there today to solve a person's need. And 70%, as again said, 70% of the person's requirement today in big cities, at least in India, is small, short distances. They are not long distances that are required from a car. And many companies came in and said, I'll solve the really long distance car problem that actually is not being solved by the car at all today in India. There are different requirements. In the US, problem is different. The whole way in which suburbs of cities got built, car became mandatory. So a lot more people, the per capita car consumption is very high because suburbs have been built that way, that you have to have a car to go from place A to place B. Public transport is not that frequent and is not that safe in many cases. So essentially people say, you know what, I'm based on my other needs, related needs of safety, speed at which I need to go from place A to place B, car is the best option. So again, I'll not go into too much detail, but get the point that you need to identify whose problem are you going to start to analyze. And you cannot boil the ocean. If you're trying to solve the problem for the car owners, then you'll focus on that as the root cause and draw the systems diagram around the car ownership. Don't look at the mobility problem. Mobility problem has a totally different set of stakeholders.
Yeah, so thanks for that. So where I'm coming from is with the new normal, COVID disrupting the complete industry, right? The airline industry or the car industry needs to look at new operating and business models is what I'm trying to tell, and how actually we can help them to make the shift or transformation using digital is what I'm trying to look at. But yeah, that is a different topic, but that's what I want to emphasize on, that COVID has really disrupted the complete business models as a whole. Yeah, that's fine.
In many cases, you are absolutely right. We'll move on to the next couple of questions, and I'm okay to keep going till we finish, till Purvi and Dr. Balakrishnan stop this.
That's nice.
So Venkatesh, just a quick time check since it's 11:20. Can we take a call on the limited questions perhaps we can take? And what I can suggest is the questions that have not been answered, if those can be sent to us, and we will forward them to Dr. Chowdhury and then get some perspective and send the answers to the audience.
I saw one question on nudge from Jay, I think, on nudge economics and where does that fit into the digital transformation. It is, when we looked at the systems diagramming, I think it came from, nudge question came from Ritesh Kale. Ritesh, it's a very, very pertinent question, and I wanted to take this opportunity. Those little triangles that I had drawn in the systems diagramming, those are called leverage points, and leverage points are little nudges that you give to the system to flip them to move in one direction. I don't know whether this pollution problem pushed a lot of companies, including those in Delhi and others, to move to an electric buses. And one of the big things that has happened across is government procurement of electric buses across the country, and the entire public mobility moving to the electric industry much faster than the private vehicles moving in the electric. It was a small nudge that was given. I mean, the total cost of vehicles, and the government was no poorer because they were actually lending the money and getting the money back from the operators of these buses. So it's not that they are investing to get something back in return, but that little nudge actually had a huge impact as to how the whole electric industry has shaped up here in India in the public transport space. We are going to see some translation of that into the private transport, but nudge economics and nudge behavior change comes in there. When you do a digital transformation and you tell your users, measure them. I have done a project for Indian Railways where if you penalize somebody at the end of the month on all the work that he has done in the month, that's one way of looking at life. The other one is to tell them every day, nudge them that they are about to miss something, they are about to do something, encourage them to meet the expectations that are there for their work, and you will start seeing this little nudge along the way going to completely transform something versus major hammers coming to change the process. So nudge plays a huge role in digital transformation. Nudge plays a huge role in systems thinking as leverage points, which people use to change, small change, creating large impacts.
I guess at this point, Venkatesh, maybe we can take another 2 questions at the max, and then look at the summary in closing.
Sure. If Dr. Sumit has any preference from the questions that he has read through, I would.
Just hold on.
Yeah.
There's a question from Siddharth, which is more academic. He says, can you please suggest a right framework for doing research in management between systems dynamics and complexity science, which will be a better fit? I don't know what, when you do research, it needs to come from within. If you have read enough about both of these things, they are highly correlated, they are related things. And if you are a mathematician and looking at complex mathematics versus looking at a large scale thinking, what is the problem that you're trying to solve between these three? Is it going to be an academic project on mathematics of complex systems, or you're going to look at it from a application standpoint in a particular industry or in a particular ecosystem? Complex systems are generally modeled. I mean, if you look at stock markets, if you look at any neural networks, if you look at any network theory, one of the big things that we do at Gaia is to look at fractals and fractal theories that go along with it. Is all part of the larger concept of data collection, going deep down. New patterns will emerge as you go down and understand things. So it's a mindset. in which you can apply. So it is an individual. You have to decide whether you want to be on the mathematics side of it or the practical implementation side of for this. The diagramming is more important. What are the hypotheses that you're trying to put forward in terms of research? One of them would be mathematics hypothesis. The other one would be use case hypothesis. Those are slightly different in management thinking. And different schools and different professors will advise you one way or the other. I may not be the right one to answer in this use case, but if we can take this offline, we can have a more intellectual conversation about this.
Sure.
The next one is Rajvi Jain. We have a retail clothing material sourcing in-house designers stitching all under one roof called Momith on Commercial Street, Bangalore, and we are looking to go online as well. What would you advise? What should be our first step towards digital transformation? This is a good question in a specific industry, in a very specific area. What I mean, right now, there's a lot of people who have gone online with niche platforms which allow for retail clothing stores to do mass customization of their products for specific users. I have, in fact, the shirt that I'm wearing came from one such online store, which asked me for all kinds of measurements for me, and then I placed an order. In 2 days' time, I had a custom-made shirt delivered to my place. It was an online placement. I'm sure that behind it was a shop or a home-based designer who was doing all of this. So essentially, in your specific case, it will be designing the website in a way that you are able to have an interaction with your customer to get specific measurements. If you look at real digital transformation, there are people who are getting into AR, VR, virtual reality, augmented reality to take images of their customers and then draping them with different clothing material, different textures, shaping them, and then let the customers interact with their designs and then choosing what they would like, and then you taking that design, and if you want to go completely digital, it gets transformed into a cutting design, and then it gets cut and gets produced. Depending on the volume that you're trying to achieve, you will go to different levels of automation. First one would be just to take static measurements from people and then start doing the work behind, or and if you want to go deeper, as I said, you can go into a way in which you create an avatar, allow that to be draped by different cloths, interact with your customers. Then you further go into the automation of production. I don't know whether I've answered your question or not, but there are so many different ways in which digital tailoring services have gone online today.
Great. Great. So what we'll do, I'm sure there are some questions that have been left unanswered. And Dr. Chowdhury, what we'll do is we'll send those questions out to you, and perhaps we can have some sort of a, answer or some sort of perspective shared with them, or if required, have a connect with them separately on a call so that they can interact with you further. But Venkatesh, should we go ahead and now close the masterclass session?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think we are well past the time,
Yes.
and it's very kind of Dr. Sumit to stay back and answer all the questions. And as you said, we would share all the questions. I can save the chat, and so we don't miss any of those questions. And I can mark those questions that have been answered already. And yeah, we can.
Great. So we'd like to take the opportunity to first and foremost sincerely thank Dr. Sumit D. Chowdhury for being a part of our Being Future Ready Masterclass series, and most importantly, kickstarting the first one at that. It's really great to see the massive participation, and also the fact that we've passed our time limit. I think that itself is an indicator that people are interested, people are involved in knowing what's coming in the space of technology, and definitely more in terms of emerging technologies related to digital transformation. We thank you for your time today, Dr. Chowdhury, and we also hope that we interact with you post this session with all the questions that we have gathered. We also want to thank all the participants and attendees today who've come. Thank you for joining us today and making this session so interactive. We also look forward that you join us in our upcoming sessions, details of which will be shared, like Venkatesh mentioned in the chat, shortly with all of us. Stay tuned because we have quite a few interesting people and interesting sessions coming, just like this one with Dr. Chowdhury that we had today. And thank you for your time. Also, a special mention, of course, to our partners at IIM Bangalore, Venkatesh and Professor Shankadeep. Thank you for being there as our support. And we are excited to kickstart this. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Right.
Thank you.
You've saved the
Yes.
chat session,
Yeah.
right?
I'm saving the chat session now, and I would then get the recording also out.
Yeah, there was one question, Venkatesh, where somebody mentioned that can we get the recording? So,
Yes, so I said we would talk to the team,
Okay.
to Professor and you, and then we would, if you want to publish, we can.
Yeah,
Sumit,
we should put
yeah.
it up in our the portal
Sure.
and create this design ready series, the future ready series that we are doing.
Sure.
Let us create a series around master classes, talk shows, blogs,
Will
your blog,
do.
whatever things that we are trying to do. Let us put it up on our site, and if there is a similar site at IMB, it can be co-hosted over there as well, so that it's cross-linked. We can, ideally put it up on YouTube and then share it in both of these locations.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
It's easier that way, and it is generally publicly available in that case, and people can
exactly
put a set of transcripts if you can get the transcripting done also.
That can happen. No
Yeah.
challenge.
In fact, Zoom does the transcripting automatically, so if that is good enough, we could use that as well.
Yeah. Fantastic. Then Venkatesh, you can send me the link from where I can download the recording. I'll also have a professional videographer, a video production team, clean it up a little bit before we decide to post it. And I'll share it with you before we post it so that you all can also give us a go ahead.
So I will also make a mention of this to the committee here.
Fantastic.
Just so there is from IIM side also, there is no issue in sharing this.
Perfect. Perfect. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Video recording in a day's time.
Not a problem.
Normally it takes about half a day to get the recording out.
Is Kanchan Mukherjee part of the this CISF, this team as well, Professor?
Kanchan Mukherjee, no, Professor. No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
So this IS area is fairly small. If you have heard of Professor Rahul De, Professor Rajendra Bandi, Professor Shankar Venkatagiri, Professor Shankadeep Banerjee, and Professor Spurti Dharnikota. These are the 5 professors inside.
So question, do you have anybody who is able to do a 1-hour session on multiple technologies, AI, ML, blockchain, all together in an hour session for the Prime Minister's office team? It's a 1-hour session. We need a high profile academician, very well-known person speaking. I can do it, but apparently we are not well known enough. So
we certainly have professors like Professor Rahul De who have seen him doing similar thing. But what has happened over the last year is, out of the 5 professors, 1 has joined new. So effectively, we have 4 professors as part of the team, and of that, all of them have taken the position of a dean or a chair for Center of Excellence. So they are hot pressed for time all the time. Like today also, I would have normally expected all the 4 professors to join. None of them could make it because they have a day job, plus they have the responsibility as a dean. So maybe come March, when things would change, like normally those things change over the end of the financial year. So if some professors give up their chairmanship or whatever other responsibilities, then there is a possibility. From the other areas, this is not going to be possible for other professors, like from other areas such as strategy or
No, this will require somebody who's dealing with technology all the time.
technology. Yes.
Yeah.
So I would check with them and let them answer, and I would come back.
Okay, sounds good. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Purvi.
Thank you, Sumit, for your
I'll
time.
see you. Are you at IIPA or
Tomorrow.
No,
Yes.
today you're not there.
No, today won't be there.
Take care. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
all the best for your sessions at IIP as well, and hope to catch up with
I
you
have
tomorrow.
no idea. I'm going to have one presentation and one I'm going to wing it completely. So we'll see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Great.
Bye.
Venkatesh, thank you for your help and also the team. This has been a
Thank you.
complete success. Thanks again. I
Thank
will
you.
reach out to you with details very soon. I would try to do that immediately after the 24th. I understand Wednesday next week is a holiday in Karnataka. So
The entire of next week would be because Tuesdays, Monday and Tuesday, most people don't work.
mhm.
And the entire of next week is a kind of restricted holiday. So people avail that on and off.
All right.
So, but you can always write to me. I can
I
write
will
back.
do that. The
On
details for the
Friday, I
next
won't
guest
be available.
session. Not a problem. Not a
Sure.
problem. I'll
Sure.
write to you whenever you're available.
So you're talking
we
about
can
the next
connect.
session.
Yes, I was thinking I'll give you details for November and December so that
Sure.
we can accordingly plan.
In
And
fact, I was about to reach out to you because we also have some other series and we don't want events happening on the same day.
right, the
Yeah.
dates also, we should.
Yeah, the dates also. Some of the audience then get divided. And,
If you can let me know which are the possible dates I can consider,
right.
then it will
So
be
I
a
will
good idea.
give you as a matter of elimination. So these are the dates on which we have already looked at
Ah.
some programs. So that way, if you make it that we don't have your thing proposed on the same day, that should be good enough.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Fine. Then you let me know that on email, the way we've been coordinating. I think that works for us. So
Perfect.
I'll reach out to you. Great. Thank you so much. And season's greetings. Have a good holiday, and we'll catch up soon again.
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay.
And happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.